Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Richardson and this is the news. The ceremonies to bid a final farewell to the former Prime Minister of Poland, Jan Olszewski, are underway. The funeral mass for the former Premier, who died on February the 7th at the age of 88, will take place in Warsaw on Saturday, February the 16th.
At 9 o'clock, the coffin was brought to the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland. The coffin was carried in by close associates of Jan Olszewski, including Antoni Macierewicz, Piotr Naimski and Jan Paris. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, with his cabinet ministers and Law and Justice Party leader Jarosław Kaczyński, paid tribute to Jan Olszewski. A book of condolence has been placed in the lobby of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland. The main funeral ceremonies will take place on Saturday. At 11 a.m., a funeral mass will be celebrated in the Archcathedral of St. John the Baptist. Jan Olszewski died on February 7th at the age of 88. He was a prime minister, defender of opposition activists and political processes during the communist period, advisor to President Lech Kaczyński, and Knight of the Order of the White Eagle.
It was a very important government. Jan Olszewski dealt with a few cases, including those related to Russian bases in Poland. The idea of the then president Lech Wałęsa was to create Polish-Russian companies there. In fact, this was a Russian idea adopted by Wałęsa. If it had been carried out, we would have to deal with the continued presence of Russian troops in Poland.
National mourning following the death of former Prime Minister Jan Olszewski began at midnight. It will continue until 7 p.m. on Saturday.
According to the Israeli daily newspaper, the Jerusalem Post, the Israeli Prime Minister, during his visit to the Museum of the History of Polish Jews, said that Poles collaborated with Nazis during the Holocaust. These inaccurate words have caused a diplomatic crisis between Poland and Israel.
During a conference with Israeli media, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu supposedly said that the Poles had helped the Germans kill Jews during the Holocaust. This quote was published by Haaretz and the Times of Israel. Meanwhile, yesterday evening, the Jerusalem Post published a quote according to which the Prime Minister of Israel said it was not the Poles but the Polish nation who collaborated with Nazis during the extermination of Jews. Netanyahu's words in Jerusalem Post caused a heated diplomatic crisis between Poland and Israel. So much so that the V4 Group Summit scheduled to take place in Israel next week is now in question, with Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki's attendance uncertain. Polish President Andrzej Duda offered his residence in Wisła as an alternative venue for the summit. If the statement of Prime Minister Netanyahu was as quoted by the media, I am willing to make the residence of the Polish President in Wisła available for the V4 Group Summit. At the moment, Israel is not a suitable place for the meeting, despite previous arrangements. Late last night, the ambassador of Israel tried to ease the tension by sending a letter to the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki.
The information provided by the Jerusalem Post regarding the statement of Prime Minister Netanyahu is false. I was present at the Prime Minister's briefing and he did not say the Polish nation collaborated with the Nazis. He only mentioned that no one had yet been sued for mentioning the Poles who did collaborate.
After the clarification by Ambassador Azari, the chief of the Chancellery of the Polish President, Krzysztof Szczerski, wrote that the Israeli side had set the record straight. We have received an official clarification from Israel regarding the alleged quote from the Prime Minister of Israel. It seems that the article in Jerusalem Post is an example of malicious journalistic manipulation. Luckily, the situation was resolved after our intervention. It is safe to say that the Middle East Summit in Warsaw has brought Poland more harm than good.
The President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, and the Vice President of the United States, Michael Pence, and their wives visited the former Nazi German concentration camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. The President and the Vice President paid tribute to the victims in the place of the extermination of Jews and the martyrdom of Poles and other nationalities.
The President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, and the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, laid wreaths in front of the Wall of Death in Block 11 in the former Nazi German concentration camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Both presidents paid tribute to the victims. The Germans shot hundreds of thousands of prisoners there, including women and children. Later, they visited the cell 11 of the Polish prisoner of Auschwitz, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, who gave up his life for a fellow prisoner. He was beatified in 1971 by Pope John Paul II and was canonized 11 years later. The presidents also visited a permanent exhibition dedicated to the extermination of Jews, which was prepared by the Yad Vashem Institute in Jerusalem. After that, both presidents went to the former Auschwitz-Birkenau camp located 3 kilometers away where the Germans mass exterminated the Jews. This place is also a symbol of the martyrdom of the Roma and Polish nations.
The Polish daily newspaper, Gazeta Wyborcza, which continues to attack Law and Justice Party leader Jarosław Kaczynski, has fallen into its own trap. Today, a headline of an article in the newspaper suggested that Jarosław Kaczynski had received an envelope containing a bribe from the Austrian businessman Gerhard Bergfellner. The businessman's lawyer, Roman Giertych, refuted the allegation, and later the deputy editor-in-chief of the newspaper did the same. A spokesperson for the Law and Justice Party said in a statement to the media that the lawyers would now deal with the matter.
The newspaper printed a long story describing what allegedly took place in its envelope gate revelations. The final step taken by the Austrian businessman in handing the envelope to Jarosław Kaczynski was supposedly to visit the Law and Justice Party headquarters, where he handed the envelope to an unknown person. The businessman does not have any recording of this, despite the fact that he recorded all the other meetings with people involved in the skyscraper project. He does not remember the person, but remembers that later Jarosław Kaczynski had this alleged envelope in his hands. The final destination of that envelope supposedly was a priest who is nowhere to be found.
I did file a notice about committing a crime, about allegedly committing a crime by Jarosław Kaczynski in this matter. Here is the document which I will file at the prosecutor's office. We want the district attorney to investigate whether the testimony of the Austrian businessman is true. I did file a notice about committing a crime, about allegedly committing a crime by Jarosław Kaczynski in this matter. Here is the document which I will file at the prosecutor's office. We want the district attorney to investigate whether the testimony of the Austrian businessman is true. Jarosław Kaczynski is a man of high principles and is undoubtedly an honest person. These are unfounded allegations, mudslinging, and this is a gutter level of attack. I personally resent it. I think that the party will take legal steps to fight it.
Civic Platform Party wants the next parliamentary session to be held as a closed session. The reason is the demand for the Attorney General to deliver a report to the session about the Austrian businessman's tapes revealed by Gazeta Wyborcza.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, business and more from Poland Daily. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the temperatures will be up to 4 degrees Celsius in Krakow, also in Bydgoszcz, as well as in Gdańsk. The minimum temperature will be 2 degrees in the eastern parts of the country, as well as in Olsztyn and Zielona Góra. Clear skies over there as well, and also in Poznań and Koszalin. Some rain is expected in Białystok. And now let's check what will happen tomorrow. So tomorrow will be a very nice day, as we can see sun all over the country. Perhaps it would be a good idea to go on a walk. 11 degrees will be the maximum in Wrocław, also in Zielona Góra, 10 degrees in Szczecin, also in Poznań, Bydgoszcz, and in Krakow 8 degrees in central Poland, 9 degrees in the northern parts of the country. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight our guest is Maciej Gnyszka of Business Associates. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
We will be talking about the values in business, because that's what you are all about in your organization. This is Poland, okay? Yeah. And we are coming from the communist oppression. Then we had people who became rich very quickly by basically stealing the national assets. And
not everyone, but many of them, yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And those who say, I need to be honest, I need to keep my promises, I need to pay what's due at the time when it's due, put themselves at disadvantage towards those who break the rules.
Yeah, that's true. For the short term, being honest is a bad strategy, but to be honest, being honest is a very good strategy for the long term. But I think that the biggest problem with people who would like to be honest in business in Central Europe 10, 20 or 30 years after the collapse of communism, or we can say so-called collapse of communism, the biggest problem is that they think that if they want to be honest, they can be not professional in 100%. So I see such a phenomenon that, okay, I am honest, so I have more problems than people who are not honest, so I can be for 90% professional, because you have to forgive me my lack of professionalism. Because I am honest, and I think that the biggest change, the biggest switch in mindset that we've made is that if you are the Son of God, if you would like to be honest, then you have to be 200% professional. Your company has to be twice better than the companies of people who are in the gray scale of morality. Why? Because you are also an apostle, so you have to shine as a star. And when you accept this paradigm, then your business is rising because you are better.
That's the statistics you are talking
about.
Yeah,
yes, of course, because every single example is different. Yeah, but I think that short term it is a problem, to be honest. But when you realize that it is a winning strategy for a long term, also when you connect with people thinking alike, then you have more power. It's also a matter of mindset to connect, because when you are honest and when you see that a lot of your competitors are dishonest, then you are likely to have last Mohican syndrome. You can think, okay, I am the last one, so I have to die. I know I have to die, but I will try to die longer. But it's not true. You have to connect with people thinking alike. You have to be better than the market, and then it appears that, to be honest, is a winning strategy.
Okay, so there is a business sense in it. Let us tell what are the structure of the organization you set up?
The structure is interesting because we connect small, medium, and big entrepreneurs. So small and medium have their own meetings every single week. Why? Because they need the most intensive networking. Why? Because they are very disconnected. Small business feels this last Mohican syndrome very strongly.
And you live in the world that's basically hostile.
Yes.
There is the customers are hostile.
Yeah.
Your partners are hostile.
Of course.
The tax office is mega hostile.
Mega hostile, of course.
If you run a restaurant or anything, you have all kinds of inspections coming and checking whether there are everything is okay.
Yeah. And you have also problems with your people working with you, especially in restaurants. That's the problem. So you need networking very strongly then. The medium business, the big business, they don't need it as much as small ones. But also, they have a hostile environment. So, for example, when the big business is looking for honest cooperators, they have also a problem. where to find honest cooperator. I am big, but I could be bigger if I had better cooperators.
Better services, better products,
Of course.
and something that you don't really have to check the quality all the time.
And when we connect in a chain, small, medium, and big businesses, there is a lot of synergy because everyone can feed another one. Yeah? So this is our structure, and now from 1 quarter we are expanding outside Poland. So we have a special opportunity to internationalize Polish companies. What I have seen in London or in Zurich, when we bring our members from Poland abroad, they realize that it is really simple to expand to London, for example. Why? Because they have met on the meeting a lawyer, a tax advisor, and someone who has a good network in mobiles. And he realizes, okay, I don't need as much money I thought I need to expand to London, to open a restaurant in London. In this pattern, one of our members who has few restaurants in Lublin, I talked last year to him to encourage him to expand to Warsaw. Yes, maybe. After he met in London in December, few people, he decided that in this half of year he will open a restaurant in London, not in Warsaw, because it is easier. So it's a very good thing I observe, and it is really trivial, let's say, because. You have to do only one thing: meet people with each other and let them cooperate. Nothing more.
You are providing this opportunity since 9 years.
Yeah.
It started with what, 10 people?
It started with 10 members after the meeting of 50 people. Yeah.
And right now you are at?
Over 500 members.
And those are the people that are using your services like every month.
Yeah.
So fantastic, congratulations.
Yes, thanks a lot.
And those who want to join this business associations are welcome. How to find you on internet?
www.businessassociation.global.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That was Maciej Gnyszka of Business Associates. The idea that you can work with people alike yourself and be successful.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Hello, welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. I'm Paulina Otterstein, and I'm bringing you a very good piece of news because tomorrow in Poland will be so sunny, there will be no rain and up to 11 degrees in Wrocław. Also in Zielona Góra, 10 degrees will be seen in Szczecin, Poznań, also in Bydgoszcz and Krakow, 8 degrees in central Poland. And now let's check the forecast in Europe for tomorrow. So also a lot of sun will be seen in Vienna, 11 degrees, 12 in Brno, 11 in Paris, also very sunny, 15 degrees in Rome, Italy, 13 in London and 12 in Dublin. The minimum temperature will be 1 degree tomorrow in Kiev. This is all for tonight. I'm wishing you a beautiful evening. Thank you. Hello and welcome again to Poland Daily Culture. Today we'll take you on a very adventurous trip through the Vodka Museum in Warsaw, so stay with us.
Polish vodka is not only our national heritage, but it is also an essential attribute of Polishness, recognized all across the world. It also is a crucial element of Polish culture, which has been served on Polish tables during celebrations for centuries. The goal of the Polish Vodka Museum was to create a space where we could present vodka's unique history. We're going to use appealing and modern means to familiarize the visitors with the process of vodka production, raw materials used for its production, as well as its different flavors. Once the visitors enter the museum, they will find interactive exhibitions, presentations, and screenings which tell the history of vodka production throughout the ages, as well as information and fun facts about the impact of vodka on shaping Polish culture and about its international career. The museum is sponsored by the Polish Vodka Association.
Do you think the way people drink vodka nowadays is different than it used to be?
Much different, because in the past, the tradition was to drink vodka in a pure state, in a neat. Today, the world consumes vodka as cocktails, as drinks. The vodka is a perfect base to create cocktails because it is almost neutral in terms of taste and flavor, and it's transparent. So when people ask me how should be the Polish vodka when you consume, my answer is very simple. It has to be as cold as Polish winter, as clear and transparent as friendship, as strong as brotherhood of men, and it has to warm your body like a fireplace at your home.
I'll try and remember that.
Absolutely.
And if you could tell us something about the museum. It's a beautiful new museum and it's very interactive. It was opened in 2018, so not a long time ago. So if you could tell us a few interesting details.
Well, we are in 21st century. It was not our idea, but it happened that the Polish Vodka Museum was open during the year to celebrate 100 years of independence of Poland. But the Polish Vodka Museum is a tribute to generations of Polish distillers and is a tribute to 500 years of the tradition of Polish vodka. Without Polish Vodka Museum wouldn't exist.
That is true. And what can we see in this building?
Well, we can see, we can learn, because we have 5 different galleries describing, first of all, the history of Polish vodka, how and when Polish vodka was invented, was created, was established. And also we present Polish vodka in the Polish culture as the element of Polish tradition, history, and heritage. Then we go to the tradition of the celebration of happy days and sad days, because we use Polish vodka to celebrate when we're really, really happy, and also within the more sad days. We have beautiful words in Polish language. One is biesiada, when we eat together with friends, we celebrate selected occasions, and uczta, when we go through our cuisine, very unique, one of the best in the world, but the Polish cuisine couldn't exist without a shot of Polish vodka. Tartar or herring, described by Polish poets, Julian Tuwim. There are many movies where the vodka plays a significant role. Polish literature, in my opinion, wouldn't exist without Polish vodka.
Polish art,
painting, sculpture, theater, even music. I think we can feel, we can sound a little bit of drops of Polish vodka.
So do you think it's worth even coming to Warsaw just to visit this museum? Because the way you promoted it kind of seems like it. I think it's very worth visiting it.
Absolutely. In the Polish Vodka Museum, we can also see the process of production. You cannot find a place like this nowhere in Poland, because the process of production is it should be the Polish soil when rye or potatoes or wheat or barley grows up, then fermentation, distillation, rectification, and the final vodka production. We have this process in one place. So even for Poles who are experts in the world about vodka, but also for foreigners, it's a place they can learn a lot, they can be educated, and after that they will be blessed to be ambassadors of Polish vodka worldwide.
True, because I think after visiting this place, it really changes your way of thinking about vodka, because it's not only a drink that is supposed to, that it makes people very drunk. It's really something more to it.
I want to avoid the story about over drinking, because we know our limits. We have very strong heads because of the tradition. But of course, vodka is not to be drunk. Vodka is to celebrate and to share happy momentums with our friends, with our families.
The Polish Vodka Museum is housed in a historic distillation and rectification plant within the premises of the Connoisseur Praga Center. The location was not chosen at random. This is where the Warsaw vodka factory Connoisseur used to operate, a building complex in neo-Gothic style, taking up 50,000 square meters between Ząbkowska, Nieporęcka, Białostocka, and Markowska streets. This is where the flagship brands of Polish vodkas, Luksusowa and Wyborowa, used to be made. Clearly, the premises belonging to Connoisseur Vodka Factory are being successfully restored and will soon become an important place on the cultural and business map of Warsaw. It will soon become the showcase of contemporary Warsaw, where the authentic 600-year-old history of Polish vodka meets modernity and novelty.
So between Poland and Russia, do you think there's a conflict of who invented vodka?
It is not a conflict. It is a war, because for last at least a century, we have a dispute. Who was the first? Who invented vodka? And we have written evidences that we were the first, because vodka came to Russia or Russian territory from Poland 100-200 years ago. But of course, Russians say that vodka is a part of their culture. But I remember I met the Russian Minister of Agriculture a long time ago. And I said, Mr. Minister, you know how to make vodka, and we know how to make vodka. Polish vodka will never conquer Russia, and vice versa. But I have the idea. Let's fight for the world boxing belt. Who was the first? And this battle shouldn't finish, because when there are two fighters, the rest are the audience. And this fight, this game, shouldn't finish for next 100 years. It's a marketing, it's a promotion, because when we create a problem, when we create a war, the rest of the world will look at us. But the other story, Polish vodka definition, which is our response to European Union vodka definition, which is horrible, because European Union proclaimed the law in 2006, which allows to produce vodka from any kind of agriculture roots ingredients. So not only grains or potato, but fruits, vegetable.
Really?
You can make vodka of carrot.
But that's not produced in Poland, I suppose.
Well,
it's
against Polish tradition. But the Western countries of European Union, they wanted to make cheaper vodka, cheaper meaning worse than traditional Polish or Slavic vodka. And we have our response based on the tradition, history, and heritage. That the whole process must be done on the Polish soil, and only 6 ingredients can be used to produce vodka: rye, wheat, barley, oats, triticale, or potatoes. Potatoes, again potatoes. In the law came into the power in Poland in the 13th of January 2013. Next year, exactly the same day, Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, and John Kerry, the Secretary of State of United States, they met together in Paris. And John Kerry took from the box 2 big American Idaho potatoes and offered to Sergei Lavrov, saying, "Sergei, you can bake it and eat, or you can make vodka." And Lavrov said, "Oh no, we do not produce potato vodka anymore in Russia. It's cheap, and only Poles, they produce potato vodka. By the way, it's very expensive. The taste is, for connoisseurs, is better than any other vodkas." But, Sergei Lavrov said that, and next day we called the press conference, and we decided to proclaim Sergei Lavrov and John Kerry ambassadors of Polish potato vodka, because they raised the potato vodka subject on the highest diplomatic level in the world. And we send a potato vodka diploma of the Polish vodka ambassador to both embassies, American embassy and Russian embassy in Warsaw, with a nice letter explaining the history of Polish vodka and why Poland is a cradle of vodka. This museum, this building, historical building, is the place that people from Poland, from the world, can meet the history, can meet the tradition, the pure tradition, the pure and clear tradition, like a Polish vodka.
Thank you for watching, and join us tomorrow on our new episode. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are standing in front of the Potocki family palace to learn more about the Polish aristocracy. They are the most independent and most prosperous branch of the noble class in all of Europe. However, after 1945, following the beginning of the Soviet communist regime, they were heavily persecuted. Today we will dig more into the details and intricacies of the Polish aristocracy. The Potocki family palace now houses the Polish Ministry of Culture, but Count Marek Potocki was kind enough to invite us to his private apartment, where we uncover more about the history of his family and learn how the position of Polish aristocracy shifted over the centuries. Mr. Potocki, during the 18th century, Poland lost its independence, and I was wondering if you can shed us a little light on how it affected your family.
Poland was partitioned between Russia. Mm-hmm. Russia took the biggest part, mm-hmm. Austria, southern part, and Prussia, the western part.
Right.
We as a family had properties in the Russian part and in the Austrian part. Mm-hmm. This is why, rather rapidly, we became important politicians representing the partitioned portions of Poland, either in St. Petersburg, mm-hmm. capital of Russia, mm-hmm. or in Vienna, the capital of Austria. Right. For instance, here is a portrait. My great-grandfather became the Prime Minister of Austria-Hungary, and he was, as a Prime Minister, important personality. Wow. Later on, he became the governor of what was considered as southeast Poland, which is today southeast Ukraine, and southeast Poland. in St. Petersburg, my grandfather, rather rapidly, he became the boss or the president of the Polish fraction of 54 Polish nationals representing the partitioned Poland in the St. Petersburg Duma, which was the Russian parliament. There were 54 of them, and he was the boss of them, so he had a rather important position. But all that, of course, this Austrian guy and my grandfather were either cousins or brothers, so they were very closely related. But since both the Austrians, and especially the Russians, had the policy of depriving those wealthy families of properties, we've done that in order not to lose our land, which was rather important, you know, and already in the 18th century we had still enormous properties in southern Poland and in eastern Poland. This is why we collaborated with the partitioning powers, Austria and Russia, not with Prussia, because we didn't have any properties in western Poland.
So it is very interesting that during the times of partition, the family actually has a little bit of on both sides of the spectrum. And I was wondering if there's a comparison between the two different countries, like the Russia and Austria, I believe.
Yes, it's a difficult question because it depended very much on how we behaved.
Right.
The Austrians were more lenient, allowing for more family and civic liberties in their part of occupied Poland. The Russians were tougher.
All right.
They would very easily send members of important families to Siberia or to prison or whatever. But if you applied their policies, they let you do what you wanted. And first of all, none of these powers will take away your properties from you unless you commit a political crime, which we would call today a political mistake.
All right.
Let me give you one example. My great-grandmother, there's a very beautiful portrait of her, of the princely Polish family called Sanguszko. Her father decided to participate in 1831 uprising against the Russians.
Right.
The story says that as a young man, he told his country fellows, "It is stupid, we will lose everything, the Russians will take away our properties, but you will consider me as a traitor if I do not participate in the uprising." And he did. And it happened exactly as he predicted, because he went for 20 years to, first of all, to Siberia, then to the Caucasus, where he became deaf because of the carry explosions of stones. This an example shows you how Russians did with those who participated in the political uprising.
Right.
I have to tell you another story which happened a little earlier.
Sure.
I had another ancestor who had a very romantic story, like happened that way at that times, with one of my great-great-grandmothers. And he deserted the Russian army, came to Krakow, which was in the Austrian part of Poland,
Right.
and he found his beloved woman, my great-great-grandmother, already dead. So he rested, I don't know how many hours, on the coffin of this young lady who died. And then he was ready to be shot by the Russians. The Tsarin of Russia, Catherine the Great, was so moved by this romantic story that not only she said, "Prince Sanguszko, my ancestor, will not be shot, but he will be given back his confiscated properties. So you see, a lot depended on how the story went or how people behaved.
As all noble families, the Potockis had large extended families through intermarriage with other aristocratic families. In the case of the Potocki family, some of the extended family could trace back their roots to the time of the Rurikid dynasty and one of the first kings of Poland, Bolesław the Brave. So that was the November uprising that we were just discussing about, and I was wondering if there's anything that happened during the January uprising, the one following the November one.
There were about 30 years difference between the two, and in January 61, none of the Potocki participated.
No.
We became, like, you know, very faithful and very obedient servants of the Russian and Austrian Empire. But in order to tell you an example of somebody of my ancestry who participated in the uprising, I have to tell you the story of my great-great-grandfather, but on my mother's side. He participated in the January uprising, and he spent 30 years in Siberia. And he went there as a young man, and he didn't stay very long because he was a descendant of Rurik. Rurik was a Scandinavian prince who became the ancestor of the first Tsars of Russia. So anybody who was a descendant of Rurik was looked upon with some kind of leniency. So my great-grandfather on my mother's side didn't spend 30 years. He was let free about 3-4 years later because he was a direct descendant of this famous Scandinavian Rurik, who is the ancestor of the first Russian dynasty.
I was hoping you can elaborate a little bit more about what the Rurik dynasty has to do with the family.
Okay. On my mother's side, I belong to the Czetwertyński, Światopolk-Czetwertyński princely family. And first of all, I have to start by the very, very early history of Poland. Rurik's granddaughter married a young man called Światopolk, who was from what you would call today Ukraine. And the Światopolk had many brothers. And the brothers wanted to steal his part of property, part of countries around Kiev. And since he was married to the daughter of the King of Poland, Bolesław Chrobry, this brings us to the year 1010, 1015. And then the King of Poland said to this young man, I help you. But he didn't want to help the young man, but he wanted Kiev. And he conquered Kiev, and at that time, Kiev, which was the biggest town in this part of Europe, and the oldest town, became part of the Kingdom of Poland. And we somehow participated in this business.
The Polish nobles used to form the backbones of Polish society. The Potocki family was one of the most prominent and especially influential within the military. Count Potocki has given us today a very interesting snapshot of Polish history. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where in the next series of episodes we'll be traveling along the Royal Route. That's right, the Tract Królewski in beautiful Warsaw. We'll be starting in the historic Old Town at the Cathedral of St. John. Then I'll be walking and talking with my friend Artur Górniewski as we proceed south along Krakowskie Przedmieście to the center of the city. You'll get to know the landmarks and historical places of interest that are most essential along the royal route. So stay with us. You won't find anything this comprehensive anywhere else. Poland Daily Travel walks and talks along the royal route.
So as we start along here, it's changed quite a lot, this area, hasn't it, in the last 15 years?
Warsaw becomes a modern capital of Poland, a modern European capital, so that all the quality that we can see in here represents pretty nice level. By the way, let's take a look at the bus. Yellow and red colors.
Yeah.
Yellow and red are colors of Warsaw. Red stands for love and the blood that were given for the independence of this place, and yellow stands for hope for development. And development is something that we can see in here right now.
Yeah. I mean, I always say this every time I get the chance, is how much the skyline is changing in Warsaw. And I mean, you come from this street, which looks pretty much like is reconstructed in the old fashion, but there's a whole new part of Warsaw that's growing up, springing up. I mean, growing like weed. Yeah.
And Warsaw and the world's best architects are involved in these constructions, like Norman Foster, like Daniel Libeskind, the one who designed Freedom Tower and Ground Zero in New York.
Yeah.
Now we are having European highest building under construction in Warsaw, called Warsaw. Which will be delivered in 2 years from now. So Warsaw will be the tallest European
we'll have the tallest,
city.
Now, the tallest building in Europe, right? How tall is it?
It's going to have 310 meters.
That's really tall. That's almost as tall as the Empire State Building without the spire, isn't it?
And will be taller than the highest building at the moment in London.
Yeah, which is the Shard? Or
this is the one.
Is that what it's called?
Yes,
the
exactly.
Shard? Yeah. I was reading about this. There are a lot of other tall buildings that are being built here. There are many. If you go to the slightly western part of the city, beyond Jana Pawła,
Warsaw Spire.
John Paul Street.
Warsaw Spire was given World's Best Building Award 2017.
It was?
Exactly.
I didn't know that.
Well, there were...
How about that, folks? That's pretty impressive, don't you think?
There you go. How about European Best Museum Award 2016, which is Polish Museum, the museum of the history of Polish Jews?
Yes. Oh, that's a fascinating place. I really want to go there and do the tour there and talk about that too. Do you go? Have you been there a lot?
Well, I've been over there on the day when it was opened.
Yeah, so you know it very well. You must tell me more later. But anyway, as we proceed down Krakowskie Przedmieście, here we have, I call it KP.
Go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
It won't get me thrown out, right? It's
no.
okay.
You can stay.
Okay. What is this building here?
So actually, it's a row of very important buildings.
It looks important.
This is Dom Polonii. We are having also fashionable restaurants located inside. But can you see over there on the corner, it's written Maria Curie Skłodowska.
Oh, yes.
She's the lady.
That's Madame Curie.
She's the one.
We learned about her as a kid.
She's the one.
The lady who discovered radium.
She discovered radium and polonium.
Oh yeah, because she had her own element named after her.
So
right?
the second element she discovered has a name of her homeland country, polonium. Now, dear scientists all around the world, she says, the second element I discovered will have a name of my homeland country, polonium, even though Poland's not on the maps for 107 years. And there you go. These are ambassadors, as you said before, of Polish independence and Polish history. Okay, Albert Einstein, your turn. So that's how it was.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, she really opened up the field, and is one of the first eminent women scientists, if not the first.
She's
worldwide.
Correct.
Is that right?
She's the first. When you take a look at photos of pictures of this time, 50 men, 1 woman.
Yeah.
And she's the one. It's incredible in here. And that
she
lady
lived here. Is that what that is?
This is where she worked first. This is
right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Warsaw's Old Town is the place where she was born, 1867.
Okay.
Maria Skłodowska is born in Warsaw's Old Town. Her sister emigrates to France first. And then Maria Skłodowska goes to France at the age of 24, and then she becomes first female professor of Sorbonne University in Paris. She becomes first female Nobel Prize winner, and the only female, the only lady who got 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different branches of science, and there are only a few people in world's history who managed.
I did not know that.
To
That's
get
amazing.
2 different Nobel Prizes in 2 different branches of science, physics and chemistry.
Wow. Thanks, Arthur. Hey, we're walking on the royal route, and we're going to see a fellow by the name of Mickiewicz from Madame Curie, or Maria
Skłodowska.
to another pretty famous guy. We're going to take a look at his statue as we go further down the royal route. Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel with Arthur. Okay, we're back, Poland Daily Travel, and we're on the royal route, and we're walking with my pal Arthur, and we're walking and talking, because that's what we like to do. And behind me is a fella that you ought to know about, because in Polish history is incredibly important, and Polish literature. His name is Adam Mickiewicz, right?
Correct.
Yep, I got it again. Check my pronunciation. And this fella is the Lord Byron of Poland, I suppose you could say, and he's also famous throughout Central Europe, and not only. He wrote the famous poem called Pan Tadeusz, and I don't know what that's about, but I know it's famous. I'm just kidding. I know a little bit about it. But anyway, Arthur, tell us about the statue and a little bit the background and about Mr. Mickiewicz.
We are having Christmas Eve of 1798. Third Christmas Eve when Poland's not on the maps, and the little boy is born. Due to the fact that he is born on Christmas Eve, he is given a name Adam. Soon he becomes the father of Polish identity, a poem writer of a romantic period, and thanks to people like him, our identity, our culture survives. Very difficult moment of Polish history. So then there is this 100th anniversary of his birth. And we want to convince Russian government to put a sculpture of Adam Mickiewicz in Warsaw. They say, okay, you can put the sculpture of Adam Mickiewicz in Warsaw, but you cannot celebrate on that day. And I would like to point out that it's Christmas Eve. It's 24th of December, 1898. So there are 30,000 of Warsawians gathering in this area, not celebrating, spending time in silence.
Right.
And then Adam Mickiewicz is a guy who didn't spend time in Warsaw. He was mostly